Today's guest has an interesting story to tell. 6 years since its formation, her foundation has raised over $246,000 and counting to carry on the memory of her son, Ian Clemens, who lost a battle to a rare form of brain cancer. The story may not have a happy beginning, but it created a window of opportunities in this area of the Mitten State for students, organ donors, and families battling cancer. Welcome to Celebrate Michigan, the show produced on the campus of Medina University. I'm Chris Benson, and I want to give a warm welcome to Michelle Clemens, president of the Ian Clemens Foundation. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell us about the foundation and how it began.
Well, the organization started in 2016. We decided we lost Ian in 2012, and at that time we started an endowed scholarship out at the University of Michigan College of Engineering in his name, because he always wanted to be a Wolverine since he was about 3 years old, and after he passed we wanted to make sure that his name carried on at the university. And he wanted to become an engineer to make the world a better place. So after we had that set up and kind of started doing fundraising for that, we decided, to keep his legacy growing and doing things that he'd want to do, we decided to start the foundation. And so I did all the filings for that, and we got approved in July of 2016 as a nonprofit 501c3.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That was quite a feat.
Mm-hmm.
But and then once we got that set up, we decided I have a 7-member executive board that are all volunteers that are just amazing, wonderful people. And I also have a 7-member scholarship committee that does our scholarship selection for the Livonia Scholarship. So
wow.
They're all retired educators, superintendents. We have one that's actually an engineer, but that way there's a diverse group who are reviewing the applications for that. Mm-hmm. So that's how once we got that set up, then we looked at the other avenues that we wanted to reach, which were helping provide financial assistance to families who are battling pediatric brain cancer or pediatric cancers, and also promoting awareness for organ and tissue donation, and to help families who are going through a transplantation process.
Wow.
So we have a threefold mission.
Okay.
But they're all very near and dear to my heart, and they were all very important to Ian. Mm-hmm.
And this sounds like you had to figure out an awful lot.
Yeah, it was a big learning curve.
Well, and I was going to say, was there anything that prepared you for the creation of this foundation? Because it sounds like you had to do a lot.
Well, I have my own business, and so
okay.
I started that in 2009, so I had that background, but not with regards to the federal filings that you need to do to go through to set up a nonprofit that can be a 501c3. So.
And it sounds like you got a lot of support and a lot of help along the way?
Yeah, I mean, it was process trial and error, and submit and then get back and submit and get back, but I was very fortunate to have made a friendship with another woman who had started a nonprofit, and so she helped me greatly with that too. So.
And it sounds like you took something that was unexpected in life, as we know, and I'm sure there was a period where you were trying to figure out what can I do and how to go forward, and then came forward with this.
Yeah, most definitely. Really, it's a horrible club to belong to.
Sure.
Nobody should have to bury their child, but it gives me something positive to focus on, and gives me motivation to get up every morning, mm-hmm. and to share his story and keep his memory alive. And if by me getting out and doing that can help somebody else who's going through that mm-hmm. process of losing a child, or who's going through with treatments with a child with cancer, and we can be there for them and help them in however way they can. It's heartwarming for me, and it gives me a greater sense of purpose.
And tell us a bit about Ian.
Oh, sure. He graduated from 2012 from Churchill. He was a 3-sport scholar athlete. He had a part-time job at Larry's Foodland here in Livonia. He had gotten accepted at every university he applied to, but as soon as the acceptance from Michigan came, we knew it was a done deal.
That was it.
So, but he was always very creative. He played the bass guitar. He really loved photography, but he was very gifted in the brains department as far as science and math and computers and things like that. So it's a natural progression for him mm-hmm. to go there. And he had a way of bringing people together. Mm-hmm. He had many diverse groups of friends, but then he was the conduit to bring them all together, and they became like this one giant group of friends. And they're still the tightest knit group of young men that I've ever seen to this day. They still
wow.
are.
So they keep honoring him.
They
to
do.
This day.
They really do.
And when did he find out that he had cancer?
So what had happened was we had moved him out in August, and after he was about out there for about 5 weeks or so, he started getting headache.
Okay.
And so I called our family doctor, tried to get him in for an appointment, and then that Saturday, I forget what the date, it wasn't one of the Saturdays in September, they were going to the Michigan game, and when they were walking back, he couldn't walk a straight line, and his friends called us, and they said, something's wrong, so we took him over to the ER at St. Joe's, and at that time, the doctor we saw said he thought that it was perhaps allergy-induced vertigo, and that it would probably go away within a couple of weeks, but to follow up with our family doctor, which I had the appointment that Monday, so 2 days later. And so in the meantime, we got an air purifier for his room. We're trying to figure out if, with changes in diet and so much, new at the university, and of course dorms, how those are.
Sure, sure.
But so then we went and saw our doctor that Monday, and he said, I concur with the ER doctor. I think that's what it is, and in 2 weeks it'll be over. And he said by that time you won't even be able to get in to see a specialist before then. So I got out to the car and I just said, Ian, what do you want me to do? And he'd never even been on a round of antibiotics his whole life, so he was not a sick child at all. And he said, something's not right, So I called and made an appointment with the ENT, and we were going to get in to see them on, I think it was the 26th or something of September. But the Sunday before, we always would go take him out for dinner on Sundays. And he called me that morning, and he said, Mom, I've got the worst headache I've ever had in my life. I want to go back to the ER. So this time we went back to St. Joe's again, and they did some neurological testing with him, and then they did an MRI. And when they came back, he came back, we were waiting, and 5 doctors came in the room and said they found a few lesions on his brain and one on his spine. And they didn't want to put a name to it because they weren't, they knew it was some type of cancer, but that wasn't their specialty. And they said because he's peds, because he was only 17, we could go down to Children's or he could go over to Mott. And he says, well, I'll just go over to Mott because, it's right there by the school. And so anyways, we stopped at the school or the dorm to pick up his laptop because he had a project to get turned in on Monday, and he had a team, and he didn't want to let his team down. So on the way to the hospital, he, had to. We picked his laptop up so he could get that to his friends. That's just the kind of person he was. And then when we got over to Mott, they did another MRI and concurred that it was brain cancer, and they admitted him, and they did a biopsy, and that's when they found it was medulloblastoma. So.
Well, and we are going to take a short break, but we want to talk more about that because I think the story you just shared, again, shows, you just never know.
Right. You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. You don't.
Absolutely. We'll be right back after this break. Please stay tuned and we'll talk more about the Ian Clemens Foundation and his story.
Sounds like you could use some Van Gogurt. It's fortified with arts-rich nutrients to improve your math and reading skills. Catch!
Van Gogurt, thanks. So what's the deal with your ear?
Always with the ear, huh?
Feed your kids the arts. For 10 simple ways to learn how, visit AmericansForTheArts.org.
Can I have $1? Yeah, it's right. I think my purse is upstairs on the bed. It's not here. Check the dining room. No. What about your sister's room? It's not there either. The upstairs closet? The downstairs closet?
There are no more closets.
Moms everywhere are finding ways to keep kids active and healthy. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov.
To Celebrate Michigan. I'm Chris Benson, and I'm here with Michelle Clemens talking about the Ian Clemens Foundation, located right here in Michigan. And we ended the last segment talking about his diagnosis, and I had never heard of that before. Would you share it again and tell us a little bit about it?
Medulloblastoma is typically a cancer that's found in a 7 or 8 year old, and they usually find just one lesion. And so usually it's very operable and treatable, but to find it in a 17-year-old was like a 1 in a 2 million kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
And what happens is when you're born, you have, or while you're in utero, you have all these undifferentiated cells, and some become your eyes, and some become your nose, and so, well, there's usually leftover cells, and most times under normal situations, your body absorbs those, and that's the end of you hear of it. But sometimes those cells will settle in the cerebellum of the brain, and they'll go rogue.
Okay.
And that's what medulloblastoma is. It's the cancer developed from those undifferentiated cells. And in his case, because of his age, it proliferated quickly, so he had multiple lesions, and then he had one on his spine. At the time of the diagnosis, though, they felt that it was very treatable and curable, and the plan was radiation and then chemotherapy.
Okay.
But after his first radiation treatment, the tumor got angry, and the brainstem swelled, or the tumor swelled and crushed his brainstem.
Wow.
So we lost him 32 days after diagnosis.
32 days. Yeah. And what a turn of events to be in college and then so quickly, finding out that a life-threatening diagnosis.
Right.
What has that meant for the people closest to him? I know we were talking during the break about his friends.
Sure. Well, it really awakens you to how precious every day is, and to know that even when, especially when you're in college, your very first year, you feel like you're invincible, you've got the world by the tail. And for them, it really kind of centered them and grounded them, and realized that, this can happen to anybody, and your whole world can be turned upside down in the blink of an eye. And so in that way, it was really hard for all of us, but it also, I think, it gave them kind of a better idea of what's not so much like you are invincible anymore. It kind of woke them up to realize that it doesn't matter how old you are, at any moment your world can just come crashing down.
And I hear purpose when I hear you talk, about the foundation, and I had not heard of it before we met today, and so I was delighted to hear more about it. And then hearing Ian's story, you took this and made this into something to help others, which that takes a lot of courage at a time when I'm sure you didn't really probably feel like doing anything.
Right, and it was hard, but I know the type of person that my son was, and I know he would be saying, "Mom, get up, get out, live this life, because I'm not here to live it, and do some good." And so that's kind of what I do every day. I hear that little voice from him pushing me to keep going and carrying on the work that he's not able to.
Oh, well, and I understand, and thank you for carrying on that work, and it's impacted so many people, and I know you've brought some pictures to share with us today. So talk us through what we're going to see here on the screen and what we're looking at.
This was just one of our last fundraiser events that we had. It was with the Detroit History Tour, and we did a haunted history tour for that.
Nice.
And then this was Thanksgiving dinner that we just took out to Mott. We do that every year. We take out 5 family dinners out to Mott every year, and Thanksgiving we do a Christmas in July where we dress up like elves and take presents out and things. We do a Halloween usually, then one in the spring, and then usually one in the wintertime as well.
Wonderful. Wonderful to
And that's a huge help for people when you have a child in the hospital. The hospital food gets old really quick, and you don't want to have the expense of eating
Right.
out all the time, and so
Right.
it's one less thing that they have to worry
You have
about.
to worry about, sure.
This was at our poker run, our annual poker run that we have every year. Those are two of my wonderful volunteers. That's Susan Swantick on the left, who's on our executive board, and her husband Steve. Their son Braden was one of Ian's best friends.
Oh,
And we do
awesome.
the poker run every year with multiple locations and different stops along the way that were things that Ian would have liked or things that he'd like to do.
Sure.
It's not your typical poker run.
Yeah, it sounds like there's additional meaning in
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Awesome.
And then this is our annual Painting with a Purpose event that we hold every year in November. That's at Painting with a Twist in downtown Farmington.
I thought that looked familiar. And look at all of the people that have come out to support.
Yeah, typically we sell the place out, which is 98 seats. So they're always happy for us to come, and they're always just so wonderful and welcoming. So.
What I love about these events is that there's a joyousness in them. You know, like you mentioned the poker, your face just lit up.
Yeah.
Like, I imagine it sounds like it's a really fun event.
It's a very fun day, yeah. What we do is we usually, we start and end at St. Mary's Cultural Center here in Livonia.
Yeah.
You will draw the first 2 cards of your poker hand, and then we give you directions to all the rest of the stops along the way. And then you drive there. It's not like a road rally where you have to answer riddles or rush to get there. It's just like a nice Sunday afternoon drive with your friends. You can catch up on life together, and you stop at each stop, draw your card. We usually have something interesting there for you to do, or we'll have it at Historical Village or something like that. And then we finish up back at St. Mary's. We figure out who has the best and worst poker hand. We award prizes, and then we have dinner, and we have raffle and 50-50. And it's a great day. Yeah, we've done it now for 9 years.
Oh my
so,
gosh.
yeah.
Well, so many wonderful things to talk about with the foundation. We're going to take another short break, but when we come back, we're going to hear more about some of the mission of the Ian Clemens Foundation and how you can get involved as well. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in just a minute.
Learning how to kickflip 6 stairs takes determination. So will getting into college. I've got what it takes. So do you.
Yo, check out this chef, right? Right? That's so gay. That's really gay. Dude, look at those hands.
Please don't say that.
What?
Don't say that something is gay when you mean that something is dumb or stupid. It's insulting. It's like if I thought this pepper shaker was stupid and I said, man, this pepper shaker is so 16-year-old boy with a cheesy mustache. Just saying. When you say that's so gay, do you realize what you say? Knock it off.
Sure, I look cute now, but when my owner lost his job, it was rough. I was living on the street, and one night, me and this Cocker Spaniel got into it so bad, I wound up looking like an ice cream cone. I cried a little bit, but thankfully I got rescued, so I'm running, I'm jumping, all back to my old self, and I'm ready to give unconditional love, even if you put a lampshade on my head.
Marie, you have prediabetes.
Prediabetes? I don't have time to eat right or exercise. I'm a busy mom.
Oh, you're a busy mom.
Yeah.
This is great news. Busy moms never get prediabetes.
Wait, what?
Let me just... Yeah, this is all the people at risk for prediabetes, and way over here, busy moms. No?
Welcome back to Celebrate Michigan. I'm Chris Benson, and we're here with Michelle Clemens talking about the Ian Clemens Foundation. And we really want to talk about some of the things that the foundation is involved in. I know there's scholarships, and we talked about events.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about these various things.
Sure. Well, every year we have the endowed scholarship at U of M. So a new freshman who is in Wayne County receives that scholarship award. We set the parameters for it, but they have their own scholarship selection committee, and so they're the ones who would select. And then in November, we actually get invited to a luncheon, and we get to meet those recipients. So, and then the scholarship carries for 4 years.
Okay.
So we've given out 15 of those.
Oh, how wonderful.
And then the one with the foundation is open to any Livonia graduating senior who's pursuing an engineering degree at any Michigan university. And there's a set criteria on our website that they, can download and fill out, and then we receive those applications, and I give those to our scholarship committee, and then they do the selections for those. And we've given out 6 of those. And initially it was a one-time $1,000 scholarship, but because of the generosity of the people that come to our events and donate, we've been able to carry that scholarship every year for them for 4 years. So, and we get a new student every year, so we're very grateful for that. Then we also, when we initially started out, we just provided financial assistance to pediatric cancer families at Mott. And since that time, we've been able to expand to families down at Children's Hospital downtown, as well as Sparrow up in Lansing. So there's 3 hospitals we're working with where we provide financial assistance to families. So because when your child's going through this, your world just comes to a complete stop, and you usually want to take time off work, so you're there when the doctors come and things. So if you need your mortgage paid, if your car is broken down, if you need money for their medications, if you need if you need lodging, if you need a gift card to go out for dinner, they can go to the social worker there, and there's funds available for them to help these families with whatever they need. And then we work with Gift of Life and Eversight. We're very much proponents of organ and tissue donation. That was something very important to Ian. That was one of the first things he did when he went and got his license, because my father was on dialysis, and so he knew his grandpa growing up was, the life of someone who had to be on dialysis. So that was really important to him. So we get out and talk to the community about that. We also provide financial assistance to families who are going through a transplant or who are the person who's donating through Henry Ford Hospital Transplant down there, their transplant institute. I'm a living kidney donor, and Ian was a cornea donor. And in the United States, there's not a wait if you're blind and you need a cornea transplant. However, in other countries there are. And so after he'd passed a year, we were able to reach out, and we sent a letter to whoever the recipients were. Well, it turns out that his corneas went to Abu Dhabi. And in Abu Dhabi, there's a 10-year wait list. So there's 2 people who are able to finally see again for the first time because of him. So after 10 years. So that was pretty incredible to learn that.
Wow.
And to see what just an impact someone can have, whether if that's the only thing you can donate. But for the most part, if you don't have a central nervous system illness, which the cancer he had was a central nervous system cancer, that's the only thing he was able to donate. But
wow.
Yeah.
So I know that people watching, they may not have heard of the foundation before. Where can they find you?
We have a website, www.ianclemensfoundation.org.
Okay.
We also have a Facebook page. We're on Instagram, and we have Twitter. But the website's usually the things that have all the activities and events that you can come to listed, and when registration opens for those, because many of our events sell out really quickly.
Okay.
And so I usually put up something that, hey, this is happening if you're interested, and so that way they're aware of it happening, and I'll put something up on Facebook too or Instagram to let people know. But we have 4 major fundraisers a year. We do a trivia night, which is always the last Sunday in February, which that'll be opening up registration soon. We do a golf outing in May. We have the poker run in August. And then this year we're doing something new in November. We're going to be, or next year, murder mystery dinner in November.
Oh.
So we're trying a few different things, trying to get our momentum back after COVID that kind of slowed things down for us. But we're getting there, and we're very blessed to have so many people who continue to come out and support us and who donate every year. And that's what really, that's the heart and soul of us. We're grassroots. We have no corporate backing. We're not a household name. So if it wasn't for those wonderful people and their generosity, we wouldn't be here. So.
And what else can people do who are watching? So they can go to events. Are there other ways they can support the foundation?
Well, I mean, even if you just share our Facebook pages and let people talk to people about us, that's huge. Any type of publicity, any type of sharing. We do sometimes need volunteers for events. When we are doing our Christmas in July event, we usually need toys or gift cards or things to take out to the hospital. So that's always something too. And you can reach out to me through the website. You can reach out. You have my email address and my telephone number, anybody, and that's listed on our Facebook page as well. You can reach out to me that way if you're looking to help out in any way. or some people have actually just had fundraisers for us, like someone threw a euchre tournament just for our organization. So that's another way some, if you're interested in helping, works too. So
I'm just overwhelmed by how much you've been able to do and how you're honoring Ian's memory.
Thank you.
What do you want people to know about him as we're closing the show
Sure.
and we're really trying to express the fullness of who he is?
Well, he was just a person who lived life to the fullest every day, and he never looked at anybody differently. He viewed everybody equally and the same, and he was a friend to everyone. He never had an unkind word to say, and he was just full of life and full of joy, and always saw the positive in the world. So.
And it sounds like I can see that positivity has rippled out through you, his friends, and everyone that touched him in his life.
Yeah.
And that he touched.
Thank you.
So thank you for spending
Yes.
time with us today. And I'm really glad that our paths have crossed as well.
I am as well. It was lovely to be here, and I appreciate the offer to be here. Thank you so much.
And thank you for watching. The time went by so fast, but I'm really glad that you have an opportunity to hear about the foundation, and hope you'll consider visiting the website and contributing to it. We're thanking Michelle for coming in today and sharing her story, and we hope you'll share it as well. And we love to share these kind of heartfelt things with you, where we talk about all the things in the Mitten State here on Celebrate Michigan. And we'll see you next time.